Hey everybody, it's Professor Snart here checking in. Okay, quick look at our due dates. It is Tuesday, November 6th when I'm recording this. Kind of a chilly, gray day outside. Let's see. So we're just finishing up or coming up to our Unit 9 due date on the Wednesday. Again, this had us kind of replying or extending the thinking from the various group projects that we worked on. We're using the Padlet tool here in Unit 9. So I'm going to do a video here that kind of walks us through our remaining units. And there's only 3 of them, so we're actually, despite it feeling like a really compressed and busy time of the term, we're actually really close to the end, especially because we have that Thanksgiving weekend there. Alrighty, so jumping into Unit 10. So this is one that I've alerted us to, almost from the very beginning of the course, so you'd have time to attend a poetry event of some kind. We've taken that term fairly broadly, like there's some variation that might happen here, but you can't just go to a kind of generic concert and call that a poetry event, or go to a play and call that a poetry event. It's sort of like artsy a little bit, but it doesn't really fit our needs, so hopefully you've had time to do that. Again, it's pretty straightforward here, just asking you to build out your portfolio with the page for our Unit 10 poetry event and just kind of tell us about it. Describe what it was, if you're able to get some pictures, video, any kind of like documentation, maybe you had a ticket to get in or there was a flyer you saw or whatever. Anything that helps us see that you were there and gives us a bit of a flavor of what it was like. Obviously, you're going to describe it, including the venue, what other people were there. Was there lots of performers or one single performer? Just the whole vibe of the thing. When it's possible to do so, it's really cool to talk with some of the poets or performers. I get that this isn't always, possible. In fact, it's impossible in some cases. If it's sort of a more famous performer that you're seeing and you're really just part of an audience and they're up there on stage. But in a lot of other cases, they're more informal and people who are performing at an open mic or some sort of poetry reading. In fact, in my experience, being on both ends of the performer and audience, people love to talk with audience members about, what it was like to do that. What did they write something new? Whatever. How'd they find out about it? Etc., etc. So give us just the rundown of what it was like. Publish your portfolio so it's updated, and then I'm going to have you read and reply to 4 others, which is kind of a lot, but again, that back and forth is really crucial to our sense of community in the course. And especially for this assignment, it's really cool to find out kind of the range and variety of what things people ended up doing for their poetry event. I've even had cases where people actually attended the same event without even knowing it until after the fact, which, again, we're online. Some events have lots of people, so you can totally see that happening. Anyway, Unit 10, relatively straightforward in the report out piece, but clearly finding the event to go to and making the time to go is more of the work that's going on here. All right, Unit 11. This is one of my favorites. It's quiz time. Everybody loves quizzes, right? Yeah, they do. They do. All right, here's the links to our completed Poets and Poems projects. These are what we're going to kind of use to build our quizzes. So you are building the quiz. You're not doing a quiz that I'm creating for you. That kind of quiz would be very boring. So we're not going to do that. The links are just like really convenient to have so you can get right to the presentations. You kind of remember, or the projects, remember what they were about, both for doing quizzes, but also for creating them. So the creation part is what you're going to start with. We're going to use Google Forms, which is maybe a tool that people haven't used, not quite as common as Docs or Slides, a little bit less familiar. Like if you've used Word, you can usually transition to Google Docs pretty easily. So there is some tutorial stuff down here, just kind of walk through screenshots. Like a lot of the Google tools that we use, the Forms tool is pretty straightforward, honestly. There's lots of cool creative stuff that you can do, so you can get kind of as adventurous as you want there. But there is this tutorial stuff to walk you through. There's even a video that's a little bit further down here, since, again, I realize that this is maybe a less common tool for people to use. But we're going to use the Google Form tool then to create quizzes. So you're going to create a quiz based on your Poets and Poems project. So again, convenient to get back to your own. You're going to create your quiz asking people, I think I said between 5 and 10 questions, Try to vary them. This gets a little tricky because you don't want to ask a whole bunch of opinion stuff, and just basic trivia gets a little bit dull too. So try to find a bit of a middle ground. One of the biggest pieces that I'm looking for when I grade your quiz, so I'll take it, but I'll also be looking at the style of the questions that you asked, is I'll be looking at the feedback that you supplied for that you can do that's within the quiz. Again, that's sort of explained, how to do it down here. So if I get a question right, it shouldn't just say, yay, got it right. There should be feedback that maybe even reiterates the answer a little bit, ties it to something broader. If I get a question wrong, it should provide me with the correct answer. But again, if it's a piece of trivia, it shouldn't just be like a one-word statement, the title of a poem, the name of a person. It should be connected with something more meaningful. So I'm grading your quiz less on the questions themselves, since those can be a little tricky, and mostly on the ample and useful and contextualized feedback that you're providing. So I'll go in, I'll do the quiz, hopefully I'll do pretty good, but who knows. But then I'll look at the feedback that you've provided, okay? So you're building a quiz based on your Poets and Poems project here. You can find it yourself easily here, but also you've got it in your files. And then as the quote-unquote reply portion here, you are going to go in and do 2 other quizzes that aren't your own. So here's where you're going to want to probably go into the discussion board, click the link that'll take you to the form or to the quiz that you're going to fill out. But then I would suggest also opening up that particular presentation. That way you have the best chance of getting it right. And notice that this is all an elaborate way of getting us back into other people's projects to learn about these poets and poems and the kind of styles that people worked in or the eras that they wrote in and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to post your own URL for your quiz based on your project. That's one post. You're going to go in and take 2 quizzes, and then you're going to, as part of that, doing those quizzes, you're going to use that reply function to sort of report out on your experience doing the quiz. How did you do? Was the feedback useful? Did you learn something by having to go through that process again? And again, even if you didn't get it right, doesn't really matter. I'm not recording the grades. I'm somebody who likes to get things right, so I'd probably try. But even if you don't get something right, because like if someone asks a fill in the blank kind of a question or more of an opinion thing, the machine doesn't grade that very well, even if you try to set it up to do so. So it's totally possible that you really did get the right answer, but the machine thought that it wasn't, so you get a 9 out of 10 instead of 10. That grade doesn't matter. I don't record that. I care about the quality of the quiz that you create, especially the feedback part, and then I'm looking for you to reply in a meaningful way after having taken 2 other quizzes. So hopefully a way more fun quiz time than what you might have imagined just seeing the, the name of the unit. Which takes us all the way to, skipping over Thanksgiving, one of my favorite holidays, to our final reflection. So we're going to return one last time to our portfolios. We're going to create a page. You might even start with the document and then just load this in afterwards, where we want to talk about, or you want to talk about, how you've addressed each and every one of our 5 course objectives here, using multiple examples from the work that you've done. So I'm asking for at least 2 for each of the course objectives. Recalling, though, that we already did this, at least part of this, in an earlier unit as part of our midterm unit. So like I say here, you can reuse some of that material because you've already addressed a few of the objectives. I expect it to be updated. Hopefully maybe some new examples have come up. If you realize that you made some typos or mistakes, you just want to build it out so it's organizationally more effective or it's just better developed, you have the chance to do that. But again, you don't have to start totally from scratch here. Remember to keep this really specific to your work, specific concrete stuff, not just in Unit 3 we learned about or in Unit 8 we were assigned to do. So yeah, that might have happened, but what's the particular work that you did for that assignment? And you have to connect the dots really clearly. How does it connect back to or show evidence of you evaluating and understanding poetry as a type of literature or whatever, objective you're talking about here? The other thing that I'm asking you to do as part of your reflection is to answer this question. What's something that you did or learned or accomplished as part of our class that maybe is not captured in these fairly limited, there's only 5 of them, course objectives, right? So really thinking outside of those official objectives, but did something else happen along the way? Again, hit publish to make it all official. Reply to at least 4. I know it seems like a lot, but getting that back and forth is really important. Also, seeing other people's take on course objectives, really important. So a really valuable piece of our class. So that kind of takes us all the way to the end. I'll obviously check in again as we go. That's not it for me by any means. Keeping in mind our due dates, this one coming up real quick. Our Wednesday poetry event due date. We have that nice break here, and then coming back, finishing up our quiz time, and then the final reflection takes us right to the very end of our course and basically the term. All right, so keep that end in sight. Stay focused though on the tasks at hand. I know things really ramp up as we get to Thanksgiving. People start to think about winter break plans, whether they're work plans or family plans, travel, whatever. Things amp up in other classes, just like lots and lots going on. It can be a really stressful time. So use your day planner, right? Keep your mind organized as best you can. Stay focused on reading instructions carefully in our class here, and hopefully it continues to be enjoyable, kind of creative, kind of an interesting take on our study of poetry. All right, talk with everybody soon.